You are given immortality with the side effect of being sent back in time 2000 years. Would you accept this offer, and if so, what would you do? Put a £1 on Leicester to win the league. Still hard to believe they won it. Such an unreal season. Can I choose where? That's the difference between me being revered as a sorcerer and burnt at the stake for being a witch doctor. Every 10-20 years you just move away. No one will have any way to identify you. I was looking for this reference. Help me out. What's the reference? I'm assuming he's referring to The Man from Earth. Spectacular movie. Not enough information, so I will describe the conditions on which I'd accept. I'd do it if I was immortal, would not age, and could not be injured permanently. You should add, cannot be trapped and, or some sort of supernatural power. Otherwise, people will solve you by burying you alive, drowning you, or otherwise restraining you. Go into Rome, baby. Oh yeah. I hear Pompeii was a pretty great place to settle down. I mean, if you are immortal, that would be a hell of an event to have front row tickets to. Could maybe get there 5 years early, save a select few for shoots and giggles. And then it turns out you didn't know what the exact date was and you end up buried under 2 stories of ash and brimstone. You could claw out eventually. A lifetime of repeatedly torn off fingernails, emerging from the ground in 23,012 AD. Only if I was both invulnerable to injury and had the ability to kill myself if I chose. There's a lot of details we'll have to clear up, to be honest. Have your people call my people. I had to dig up my response last time this was asked. We have to talk about the repercussions. The sun will burn out. You will be left on a frozen planet. Or vaporized, I guess. Dunno how that'll go. I would assume live forever means you are stuck there, cold and dark, forever. So the biggest a-holes. It's a punishment. For your information, turns out you'll get vaporized when the sun swallow Earth's orbit. If you're immortal, that's gonna hurt for a long time. That's future me's problem. Every time my friends remind me that submission date is nearing. You'd basically get to witness all of recorded history firsthand, although by the time it came around to present day, your would have been lifetime would fly by in comparison to your new lifetime. Then you gotta deal with eternity by yourself, which doesn't sound pleasant. I'd need to know the details of my immortality. Can I get hurt? Do I heal? Do you spawn and come back to life somewhere if hurt? Do I have to eat? Or is eating and drinking an option, but I can skip it without any issue? And what happens when I get tired of living? Can I call it off myself? Then I'd need to have some kind of knowledge of languages. But if those issues were satisfied, yeah, I'd go back. Right. Last thing you want is for someone to encase you in a lead tomb and toss you into the ocean once they find out you can't be burnt at the stake for being a witch. Jesus. That would just take all the fun out of immorality. The 2020 of immortality experiences. But if you can't get hurt, no pain, and can't suffocate, you can scrap your way out of the tomb. See, you're in 300 years, but anyway. 2000 years ago? This is easy. Move to Lusalinberhak. Lay low. Gather a group of strong men around me and train them for 4 centuries. Established trading connections around the Low Countries in Saxony. Around 500 CE, declare the independent state of Luxembourg. Fortify the most strategically important site in Europe. Conquer Antwerp and Rotterdam. Act as the western gateway for that sweet Hanseatic trade money. Ingratiate myself with the ruling European families. Profit. Centuries later, probably start writing a fictional vampire series about my experiences. This guy Crusader Kings. Yes, he definitely does CK. I never thought of CK as the ideal training experience for when I achieve both immortality and time travel. Always good to find Paradox fans all throughout Reddit. I'm stupid, but what book are you talking about? A lot of people have mentioned potential downsides, but another one, even if you have invulnerability, is the possibility of being imprisoned. Maybe they can't kill or even hurt you, but they could lock you as a prison or trap you in a cave or something for eternity. Imagine being trapped in a dark cave for thousands of years with no way to die no matter how badly you wanted to. That's straight up torture. Imagine then 2000 years later they find you while digging to build a new building. At that point you have gone insane and are a shell of your former self. There's a movie, show pilot on Netflix about this. In the Middle Ages the people thought they were witches. One escaped, but the other was locked in a box and thrown in the ocean. Do you know the name of it? Sounds like the old guard. They're not invulnerable, but they'll regenerate any wounds. They can still die, but they'll come back to life. How fast depends on the extent of the injuries. Two of them back in like the 1600s were captured and tried as witches. One escaped. The other was locked in an iron box and thrown in the ocean where she drowns, comes back to life, and drowns again. For hundreds of years. There certainly are worse fates than death for those that are immortal. That's the whole point of being immortal. The only downside is that you can't die. Remember? Cos is still floating in space. If I'm being offered this, my 2k plus year old self should be around to tell me it's a go or not. I will wait on myself to tell me to do it or not. Plot twist. Your 2k plus year old self is the one offering you immortality. Travel to Antarctica, because it will be there. I never expected this to get 2 awards, thank you all so much. Build a settlement, with functioning heat, running water, indoor plumbing, and invite a few hundred select people. After the kids come of age, kick half of everyone out, invite a few new people in. Go to keep the gene pool fresh. Name it Scratlantis. Make sure you have a ton of acons. I will literally freeze myself just so someone can find me, and I'll bust out of the ice all cool like and it'll be cool. Yeah, go to Antarctica, freeze yourself and wait for global warming to melt the ice caps and wake you up around current times. Do you think you would remain conscious when frozen? I do not want to menstruate for 2000 years. Hallelujah. On average, women lose around 60 milliliters blood per menstrual cycle. Assuming 12 menstrual cycles in a year, blood amount in 2000 years will be 60 12 2000 equals 1440 liters or 380.41 gallons. That would fill up 9 barrels. Stop. I died to this comment, don't know why, lol. Probably the blood loss. I think the fact that I'd be immortal wouldn't be a problem. The fact that my immune system and every highly developed virus and bacteria in me would kill most parts of the world's population within months after my arrival is a lot more concerning. What would eternity be without company? And you wouldn't be able to speak any languages for at least the first year. Had Latin in school, this would really come in handy. The Latin we know as Latin is classical Latin, used only in writings and high society, which is different, not extremely so, but noticeably, from the vulgar Latin that people actually spoke. Imagine if your only sources of English were Shakespeare and Chaucer, you could probably barely manage, but it would be rough. If you threw me in China, and none of the local English speakers were allowed to talk to me, I'd be able to say hello and every single other thing would be complete pantomime. Only knowing Shakespeare equivalent speech is still a hell of a head start. With that in mind, it would be hilarious to put yourself in an Egyptian tomb and when someone finally excavated it you could scare the living shoot out of someone. Then there'd only be one fatality. You're immortal. How wonderful. And going back 2000 years will allow you to become rich and powerful. Knowing that there's gold in the Yukon, or diamonds in South Africa. Knowing about the geography of the planet. Being able to buy the early works of Da Vinci, or Michelangelo. Backing Rockefeller and Carnegie when they are starting out. Buying a ton of Bitcoin at 6 cents. Owning Apple and Google and Amazon shares. Rich and powerful. But everyone you ever meet will die. You will have children and lovers and spouses and friends. And you'll have to bury all of them. As we get older, our perception of time shifts. And that's why as adults it seems like the seasons are racing past. Accelerate that. Centuries will fly past in a heartbeat. And it will seem that the baby you saw born will have died in the blink of an eye. How can you possibly risk emotionally engaging with them knowing this? We're pretty good at generating, processing, and transmitting information these days, and we're only getting better at it. That means you're going to have to keep your immortality a secret, because it's the holy grail of mythology and science. And if word gets out that you're immortal, you will be hunted relentlessly. You will be taken into custody and examined meticulously, right down to the last bit of your DNA. You'll need to be very good at running and hiding, and you won't be able to trust a single soul. Who knows what the long future holds for humanity, or this planet? There could be another great extinction event that wipes out 90% of life on Earth. You'll survive, but what else will? Maybe you'll get to see humans travel and colonize other worlds. If we can solve the FTL dilemma, eventually the sun will explode, or just fizzle out. You might be lucky enough to have escaped this planet before the sun swallows it, but then you'd be adrift, unless, as I said, there were colonized planets. Even if there were, eventually the universe will expand and fizzle out, in what science speculates will be the Great Freeze. There will be no stars, no planets, no life except your own. There will be nothing. Nothing but you and the entire universe. For all time. Alone for eternity. I think I will pass on this proposal. Chicken. You will have children and lovers and spouses and friends. Clearly you overestimate my social skills. Instead of the 40-year-old virgin starring Steve Carell, it's the 2000-year-old virgin and it's your life biography. I feel like people are sleeping on one important fact. For this scenario to be possible, time travel must also be possible. You're immortal. Figure it out and you could potentially forever avoid the end of the universe. Man, this is exactly what I say to every immortality question. The Earth and Sun will eventually die, as well as the universe. You're stuck in emptiness. Forever. That is, unless there is another Big Bang.